Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Alex Kapitanakis. He is the CEO of Atlas Vaults, a Panama City-based wealth and gold storage company. Alex, welcome.
Nice to be with you.
Absolutely. Where, Alex, are you calling in from today?
Well, right now. I'm calling out of Miami, but most of the time I'm in Panama, in the Republic of Panama, where we have the vault. But I travel back and forth, and sometimes I'm in Europe as well.
That's awesome. So I think this is going to be a really interesting episode. People have had tons of questions about storing gold, storing precious metals and bullion, and then even going to the direction of storing crypto and cold storage and all that. So we're going to get into a variety of topics around everything to do with storing physical assets and Atlas Vaults. So I thought maybe, Alex, the best way to get started would be to just give us an overview of Atlas Vaults as a company.
Atlas Vault is a company that I started primarily because of the need that I had, which is to store gold and silver in a safe and completely independent location. And I had originally wanted to create something that would be small and just for personal and small amounts of different clients. And as I started in the project, I realized it had to be a lot more elaborate. And I created essentially what was going to be and what is a Swiss style vault with 6 levels of security. That essentially, once you get in, you can't get out. It's unless you've got the special clearances. So that's what I created, and that's what we are. And it's essentially a safe place. It's not connected to any bank or any banking system. There are no third-party risks. When you become part of Atlas, it's yours. You control it. You're the only one who can access it. Nobody at Atlas can access it. It's yours. And you decide when you want to move it, what you want to do with it. It's a place for people to privately have control of their hard-earned wealth.
I like it. How did the personal need arise for you?
I travel a lot to Panama and other places in South America. And I, as a U.S. citizen, I wasn't happy with what has been going on with the U.S. banking system, and I wanted a place that was independent of the U.S. banking system. And as I went to Panama, and I discovered, well, Panama's not that independent of the U.S. banking system. It's too connected. And I started to believe and desire to get involved in something that I can control, that didn't have debt like the dollar is, which is debt-based. So I started getting into gold and silver. And then I decided, well, I need a place that I could trust to store it. And that is how the idea was created, because the places that I saw in Panama were not to my liking, and I wanted to sleep well at night. So I ended up creating something that was a lot more than I originally had planned, but was necessary. And I think I have probably the largest vault in most of South America. And it's definitely, I brag to say it's definitely the most secure.
Damn, the largest vault?
Yeah, we have over 2,000. We have 2,000 actual independent storage units for individual and independent clients.
Okay. Yeah, it must have been a huge capital investment. Like, where did you even source the vault doors and all that stuff?
That's all part of we had to get, once we got into the building of it, we had to use we went through Hamilton Safe and Brinks, and we made sure that we were up to their standards. And so that's what we did. We also created a separate and secure entrance, because one of the things that really bothered me as a customer, as a client, was that you want security, you want safety, and most of the vaults that I would see, you would come out in a parking lot full of dozens of people and people the street. And I wanted to create a place where you can go in and park securely and not be seen, and not be subject to, let's say, people that want to rob you, that are watching you.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that was very important, and so that's one of the factors that we have at Atlas: a secure, independent entrance, and we have 6 stages of security. That means that you got to pass through 6 different levels before you can get to your actual vault.
Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely come back to even more of the mechanics, but I guess before we get too far in the episode, Alex, I'd love to just hear a bit more about yourself and your backstory, because I'm just guessing you have an interesting story. I guess I'm assuming you're of Greek origin. You were born in Cuba, grew up in Miami. Now you're doing stuff in Panama. So you have a very international background, and we'd love to just hear a little bit more about you.
I'm actually a Cuban Greek, U.S. citizen, and I still am a practicing attorney, and I don't go to court anymore. But I that's how I earned my living originally. And then I started investing in different businesses. And what I ended up doing was I liked the opportunities that existed in Panama, and I wanted to establish a business in South America. And to me, Panama is an incredible. Uh, it's a port area. It's a port of opportunity to go to all the other places in South America. And we're 2.5 hours away from Miami. I go to Miami and back and forth all the time. And
Hmm.
we're not very far from Texas and from California. So it's in a convenient location, and most people don't realize that a majority of people can speak English in Panama. Although I mean, I'm fluent in Spanish, but a majority of the people in the business world, at least, are very fluent in English. So it offered an opportunity, and I was excited to create that. And in a couple of other businesses, I have I try, and I've also got a little bit of a farm business that deals with olive oil, and that's the Greek side. But that's a story in a nutshell.
Yeah, very cool. What is the story of Greek people moving to Cuba?
Cuba was always fascinating to to the Greeks. I mean, my father was a sailor, and at the time, in the 50s, Cuba was the most exciting place that anybody in Europe had discovered. So it was a rambling place of nightclubs, and it was business opportunities. My father had a business that dealt with the ships, and it was something
Hmm.
that I mean, it's a country he fell in love with. And obviously, when the communists took over, things changed, and the world pretty much was was destroyed from that point of view. And we resettled in Florida.
Okay, okay. I'm like thinking of like the Onassis family and like
Yeah, well, I wish.
like Greek shipping families.
Onassis actually made his fortune in Argentina. You may know that. Uh, it was dealing with ships, but it was really dealing with merchandise. He started with tobacco and other cargo on ships, and he found his fortune in Argentina.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm sure everyone kind of knew each other back then, back in like all the shipping magnate families and
Well, they
stuff.
might have known each other, but they didn't cooperate much. But that's just business.
Interesting. Good to know. So you're born in Cuba, grew up in Miami. How did Panama sort of become part of the picture in like as a business opportunity? Was it just a pragmatic thing? You wanted a plan B outside the
Yes.
United
Yeah.
States, or How did it go?
I wanted to do something in business that didn't have the that honestly, the thing that bothers me the most about the U.S., and I'm an attorney, is that the U.S. has become such a litigious country that you can end up losing everything you work for overnight because of the crazy system and the fact that it encourages lawsuits by some of the lowest forms of lawyers that I've ever seen. But that's the U.S. system. It's out of control. You go to places like South America, and nobody thinks about how you can get rich quick in a lawsuit. But that's what's happened in the United States. And even though I am an attorney, I just don't I can't agree and live in a system that that allows for that kind of environment. And it's not the environment that's conducive to a free business and actually freedom in general.
Hmm. And so you mentioned that one of the themes that would excite you to talk about on the episode was the opportunities that exist in escaping the United States to relatively more free places. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, there are so many opportunities now in Panama, Colombia, Mexico. I used to laugh when I saw, the stories on the news about people who didn't like their government in the United States saying, "I'm going to run off to Canada. I'm moving to Canada." And I always used to wonder, why do they always say Canada and instead of Mexico and southern places beyond Mexico when it's the life is so much better. The expenses are so much less. The opportunities. Yes, there are issues with crime in some places, not in Panama, but in Mexico. But a lot of that is exaggerated. I mean, whenever I hear people say, "Well, you can get killed in Mexico," I said, "Have you walked through Miami lately?" I mean, what why do you always have these kinds of issues? And I Americans have a very limited view of what is in South America. I find every time people talk to me about Panama and they've never seen Panama, they think there are chickens walking around the streets. And if you go to Panama and you see Panama City, not to be confused with Panama City, Florida, if you go to Panama, it looks like it most people that see it say they think they're in Miami. It looks like the same place.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, it's cleaner than Miami, and it's a lot easier to move around, except for the traffic. But even Miami's got terrible traffic as well. But the traffic is the worst
Hmm.
part of being in Panama.
How long you been going to Panama for?
Now going on 10, 12 years.
So you must have seen a lot of changes.
Panama has been expanding. It is like the capital of South America in many ways. A lot of businesses and a lot of companies find that Panama's is geographically and politically in a very, very good place. Of course, you've got the Panama Canal, and you have issues like uh, you don't have the same danger of constant political upheaval as you do in other places because the United States does not allow Panama to have a military. The United States has protection. So, in a way, I say one thing and it conflicts with another. The United States is the big brother of Panama, so it does have that protection. You have the benefits of being in a semi United States environment, but at the same time, you are in a freer area because it's under Panamanian law, Panamanian control, and you have the South American mentality, which is a lot easier and a lot easier to deal with in a daily basis when I'm in referring to business.
Yeah, you find that to be the case that it's potentially easier to do business in Panama than in the United
If
States?
you do your homework and you get the right people, because unlike in the United States, you can if you don't get the right people involved in what you're doing, you'll end up with a lot of headaches because you don't know the territory. But yeah, Panama
Hmm.
in general, I think it's easier because you, it's not as easy. Look, the United States, it's very easy to open a bank account. Takes you 2 hours. In Panama, it could take you 3 days, 4 days, and they deal. But that's not because of Panama. That's because of the United States. The regulations and the
Gotcha.
implications, the implications of its rules are so strong. But that happens in Europe and in most of South America. Every bank has to deal with an American legal system or banking system. So yes, there are complications, but when you get the right people, the right attorneys, the right accountants, uh, life is much easier if you did it right to begin with.
Hmm. And I guess that you don't know this about me. I am an anonymous account, but I do have a base in Panama. I may or may not have bank accounts in Panama, so I do know the system well to
Good.
some extent. Just as a FYI.
Then you know how you know how hard it can be. The banking system is a problem. Um, I find that the banking system has become a problem all around the world. So I
Hmm.
believe to the greatest extent we can, I'd like to be independent of the banking system, and that's been my goal, which is not easy, and it's not always practical or feasible. But to the greatest extent that I can, I like to have an involvement outside of the banking system and not have to use it. And I'm referring to legally get out of the banking system and using alternatives to the banking system in exchange of value. So that's the goal of Atlas, and the goal of the people that find me, that they want
Hmm.
privacy and freedom, and they want to stay on the right side of the law, and they're trying to find that balance.
Yeah, we just had a tweet yesterday, which was well timed, where we were talking about how some of the only things that you do not need to report to the IRS are internationally held real estate and internationally held safety deposit boxes, physical assets, gold, precious
That
metals,
that is
right?
true.
So, do you want to elaborate that on that a little bit?
You just said it. I mean, I try not to get into. Obviously, the tax advice is very, very independent and individual. You have to be very careful with that. But it is true
Hmm.
that until they change it, the IRS does not require you to report the real estate and gold and silver and safety deposit boxes that are not part of the banking system. That's the actual regulation. I believe that's still the case. Now that they could change that with the government anytime they want in the U.S., but that is the case, and you do have to report your profits every time you sell your gold and silver. But that's based on a different kind of. That's not an ink. That's not a classic. That would be
Right.
considered
You're
a
not
different kind
reporting
of
assets,
income.
but you might have to report the capital
Yes,
gains and stuff like
exactly.
that. So when you say you want to diversify away from the banking system, what do you mean by that?
Well, the what I mean by that is you get away from the savings accounts, get away from keeping your value, your wealth in a savings account or in third party liability controlled assets like stocks, bonds. I'm not going to go against people that love stocks and bonds. That's their business, and obviously everybody has their own idea. But and you should have a percentage of something in any case because things change. But I believe that your savings should be in your hands. Uh, I have
Hmm.
I have been the victim of a banking failure in two different countries, and I will tell you that once the bank fails, you're screwed. You don't have anything there. You have whatever you thought you owned, you didn't own. The bank owns it. And so I believe in have something that you control that is in your hands and nobody else's. And that's why Atlas exists. Because essentially you go into Atlas and only one person can open up your box. That's you. No one else. I can't do it. And if I wanted to do it, I would have to go through a major process, and it's essentially like an eviction. And I have to then, before I could ever just break the box, I don't have a key to your box. I have a key that opens your box with your key. It takes two keys to open up your specific property. My key will not open your box, and that is the way the safety deposit system works, and that's how we work. And so that it's important. The second part of what I wanted to do is, once you have your savings stored in the form of wealth of gold, silver, whatever other precious items you have, I wanted the ability to convert that and use it and convert it into any kind of currency that you can then trade with. You can then pay your bills with, just like you would do with a bank. So it was very difficult to find a system that would be able to take your gold and your silver and convert it so that you can spend it. And I found the ability to partner with a new company that's quite large. It's worldwide, and it's called Kinesis. And Kinesis allowed me to, as part of their vaulting system, take my clients, my own gold and silver, and deposit it into their account. Create an account with them, and convert, let's say, an ounce of gold into the equivalent of Kinesis gold, 1-to-1, and it's stored in the vault, audited 4 times a year, and that then allows me to spend it anywhere in the world, because it converts the value of that gold has now become a Kinesis money, which is exchangeable for dollars or for Bitcoin or for, I think, 2 or 3 other digital currencies.
And how do you spell Kinesis?
Kinesis. Kinesis.
And Kinesis, what? Like, is there a full name
Kinesis
to the company
money.
if I want to Google it?
If you enter the name Kinesis, you'll get. As a matter of fact, they're even on
Free Gold Depository. Okay, so that's a bit more of a complicated of a theme, and I 100% want to come back to this stuff, because I want to talk about on and off ramps and sort of the crypto aspect of things. But for the moment, as we're sort of building our podcast episode here, let's just take the very base case of like traditional vaults and gold storage. Remind me, how long you guys been in business for?
Since it's going on 4.5 years now.
4.5 years. I read something where you guys said that you can compare with the best of the Swiss vaults. You're the Swiss vault of Latin America. What makes it so much more secure than maybe your competitors?
I'm not sure I have that many competitors, but look, I only want to. I'll speak to what we have.
Okay.
You'll have to go and analyze and study the competitors, but I know that what we have is we are the actual vault itself has steel reinforced and concrete reinforced by all around it by about 2 feet. It's the bottom of the whole area is completely structured so that I think it could even withstand a few attacks with bombs. So it's
okay. I believe you.
It's you have to go through 6 different sections that kind of keep you stuck. It feels like if you've got claustrophobia, it's a problem. And I say that because I have claustrophobia, so it's hard for me to get in and out of the little sections. But it uses fingerprint and facial recognition to get through different stages, and
Hmm.
it's meant to. It's a lot more secure than what I've seen in the area. Additionally, it's in the heart of downtown Panama, the banking area. It's also
Hmm.
very private when you come in, which means if you're coming in with some, let's say, if you have some gold you want to take out or put in, nobody sees you coming out of your car or going into your car, uh, except for the people in a in a secure private parking lot that's under the ground. It's under.
Okay, so it's like you drive into a
Yes.
garage first,
Yes.
and then like go up an elevator, and
And
then
it
like
has a private entrance that no one can expect. Nobody can be outside waiting for you. It's a way to keep yourself private, so that because some of the places that I saw in Panama, and I was a customer of one of those places. I had to I had to go in and out of these places with in the middle of the day with just hundreds of people walking around, and whoever wanted to just spot you and study you and go hunting could do it, and it's not very safe.
Mhm.
And so I wanted a place where you feel completely secure and nobody can be stalking you and waiting so that
Mhm.
they can get a lucky day by robbing you.
You know what's funny, Alex, is last time I was in Panama, I was walking around the financial center there, getting some things done, and I literally walked by your building and I saw the sign and it said International Vault and Safe Deposit Boxes. And I remember thinking like, this is dope. Like Panama's cool. Like they got all these services going on. And because I have it open on just on my phone on Google Maps doing the street view, and I'm like, this like literally this is the one. I walked by you
Oh
guys
yeah,
before. I've walked by.
yeah. We're right across the
Yeah.
street from. I believe the hotel is the Executive. Uh, we're diagonally across the street from them. We're very close to everything.
Hmm.
Traffic is always a problem. I'm not going to tell you it isn't, but you've been in Panama. It'll drive you crazy. But
Hmm.
yeah, we have. I don't. There is another place that's. If you know what Panama is like, and you know that the Panama Canal is the biggest area. That's the reason for the existence of the country. But if you cross to get to the other side of the Panama Canal, is an incredible uh, feat. It's an incredible. It's a very difficult thing to do during like most of the day, especially during the rush hour, because it's one very big
Hmm.
bridge with just two lanes to get in and across. And as far as I know, one of my competitors is on the other side of that. And I will tell you one thing: it takes a lot for me to want to go and cross that bridge because it's like 3 hours of traffic.
Right, right. You got Arejan and all that. Yeah, you don't want to go over there. Um, okay, I got it. And so, just to help for people visualize it, what are the actual services that you offer? You have safety deposit boxes of different sizes. Just run us through the offerings real
We
quick.
have, depending on what you want, we have a few small boxes that we can. They're great to keep your crypto keys in and things like that, and your documents. And the bigger boxes, the medium sized boxes, and the bigger boxes are basically to keep whatever gold and silver you have, and that stores and that's we charge it by the year, and it's actually, I mean, it's a year long rental, and I think I can't tell you the exact price because it's changed right now, but it's not, it's not very expensive for to keep something as
How much more or less for like the mini box, the document box, and then like I don't know, like a Nike shoebox
a
size
Nike
one?
shoebox. Are like a medium or small box is about 650 a year, and the bigger boxes are 1200 a year. So it's a very
Hmm.
good it's a very good bargain because you're paying it once a year. And some of the vaults that I met a couple of the really big vaults in the United States that have come to see me. One in particular, he came to see me, and he has places in Miami and all over the world. And the first thing he said after he looked at everything, I gave him the full tour. He looked at me and he says, "Well, you don't charge every time they come in?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Oh, we charge our clients every time they come in." And I said,
Visiting
"They
fee.
charge a fee every time they come and visit." And I said, "No, we don't do that." And he was kind of shocked, but that's the way it goes. That was a Swiss vault, by the way. They actually have vaults in Switzerland and all over the U.S.
I mean, what are people even visiting for? They're just like checking in on stuff. I guess they're grabbing documents and adding stuff, taking away
The
stuff.
people that use us are people that are like maybe someone like you would be, or your whatever. If you have your savings, you buy your gold and silver, which we also help you with. We have a service that will give you all the contacts you need. We do sell gold and silver through a separate company that we have, and they have people that come in. They look for the privacy to keep their stuff safe. Their private
Yeah.
document.
How often? How often do you think the average person visits their safety deposit
I
boxes?
have
Like less than once a
clients
year?
that come in every 2 times a month. If they're from the U.S., they'll come in when they come to visit. They'll come in for a couple of hours. I mean we have people that are in Europe that come to see that are clients. So they'll come 2 times a month or 1 time a month, and it's basically
Got it.
there is no right, there's no pattern, but some people don't ever come. Some people, they forget it, and once they rent it, they forget it. Other people come in every other day. It depends on the person.
All right, I got you. Okay, I do have a related question, and we'll get to the buying gold stuff in a second. But I wanted to know, like, what percentage of the clients are Panamanian citizens? What percentage are Panama residents? Right, like they have a second residence permit, and then what percentage are just basically on a tourist visa and are like full out foreigners? Let's
I'd
say.
say I'd say about 40% and I'm taking a guess here, but about 40% are South American, and 20% are non-Panamanian residents. The majority of the people that are using our services are from other countries, and but most of the people that come to use our services have gone through. They go through the lawyers of the legal system, and they create their own legal residency, and they're there because they're creating a separate alternative life there. So most of the people that come have other had homes in other countries, and probably still do, but have established a residency in Panama.
Okay, so you'd say most people are residents in
Yeah,
some
but you don't
capacity.
have to be. I mean, you can, as long as you pass, the know your client uh, basic questions that we have and the documentation. You don't have to be a resident to open up an account with us and keep a box. Essentially, you just have to not be involved in criminal activity, and you have to show that you are a person that has abided by the law.
Yeah, could you speak to the KYC process a little bit more? Because we definitely had people ask about that on Twitter.
We take your when you sign up for us, we do a check on your, make sure you don't have a criminal background, that there's no international warrants or anything like that. We take a copy of your passport and your driver's license, and we do have to establish that your source of income has not been derived from illegal activity. But it's not. I mean, we're not part of the banking system, so we don't have to follow all those same regulations. But believe it or not, I think we're probably tougher than the banking system. But we just want to make sure that everything is being legally followed and that people are safe.
Mhm.
Because we once you're part of our system, we want to make sure we protect the system and the integrity of the system. So we are careful with that. And to get in, just to get into our vault, you have to present your passport to get in and show your identity. And our staff will check you out before you're allowed to get into the office area.
Wow. So you actually need the passport, not even the driver's license to get
Well,
into
your
the
driver's
building?
license to get into the first level, I think we have allowed that. Yes, but to open
Okay.
up an account, you need your passport.
Okay. Another question that came from Twitter: Can these can the safety deposit box be opened via a Panama company, i.e., a Panama trust or
Yes.
foundation, or just like in the name of an entity, or does it have to be an
No, it
individual?
can be both. As a matter of fact, you can allow for I believe 3 people to have access to your vault account. That you have to establish them through our same process, and they have to have their fingerprints and everything taken because that's what part of the process. But you can designate people in your account that you give access to. And by the way, when you do that, that's your that's your business and your danger, because sometimes one, like a father, will give full access to a son, and the son comes in and takes everything out, and that's his business. If you gave that person access, you did it. Yeah,
No, I get
and
it. And so could it be like a U.S. company or Panama company, and then you give the lawyer or the power of
absolutely,
attorney access?
absolutely.
Yeah,
It all has to be done through a legal process, and lawyers that provide the documentation that we then have on file and we follow. But yes, we have. As a matter of fact, we have a lot of power of attorney situations where people, some people are getting on in years, and they give representatives of their power of attorney, and these people have access to that wealth, and we follow the instructions of the client to the letter. And
got it.
you can have
Um,
companies, Panamanian companies, and in Panama there's a thing called the foundation, which you might be familiar with. That is like a trust, and that is established under Panama law, and people can have their property under the foundation, and they can open up an account through that.
okay. Does it have to be a Panamanian entity, or could it be like a, I don't know, like a Cayman entity or American entity, stuff like
No, it's,
that?
any entity that has a legal status can open up the account. That we then would recommend that you have a Panama lawyer review your documentation to make sure it's going to be valid, and it will have the force of law in Panama. But you can do it. You just have to be careful and make sure that it's done through the proper legal experts that you should hire.
Got it. A couple people asked, can the government seize those vaults, and in what cases? Like, could a foreign government put a subpoena type thing on it, or the Panamanian government? Yeah, I guess. Could you speak to that a bit?
The the situation with if you think about the vault itself, it's the same as having an apartment building, and each vault box is an individual apartment. If somebody were in some kind of legal problems with the government, that government would then have, under a process of law, would then have to produce a subpoena that would specifically request the property of that specific box and that specific issue, and it would only be that box that could get in, and we are very strict on that. So if somebody has some kind of probable cause with a subpoena to come in, it has to be specific, and it has to be specifically mentioning what it's looking for. And if not, we're prepared to challenge it every time it happens. But no, the government can't just come in and seize everything.
Got it. I actually like that analogy with the apartment building, apartment unit, with what you guys do.
Well,
It's a
it
good analogy.
actually, that's exactly what it is. I mean, when you sign we have a very long contract, and when you sign the contract, we tell you what you, what you are going to use the box for. As long as it's all legal, we do not have the right to know what's in it unless you're telling us you're going to do this, unless you're going to, you disclose that. When you take
Mhm.
out your box, my staff doesn't look at you doing that. We have two special rooms that you take your box, and you take it in, and you lock yourself in, and you open that box, and you, whatever you're doing with that, that's your business. We do not, my staff, even if you open their, you'll find it a little funny, but if you're in the vault itself and you open the box, my staff, they turn their back on you so that they don't even want to see you doing it. Now, we know that
Mhm. Is there like a camera in the
there's
vault?
no camera in the vault. We have cameras everywhere else, and there are no cameras in the actual rooms where you go in to look at your, at your
Right. It's
property.
kind of like using the bathroom.
No cameras in the bathroom.
No, but it's like the same thing, right? It's like the only place there's
Yeah,
no
no, we
camera.
have we have cameras at all the major points of entrance and at the staff, but we don't have cameras in the vault, and we don't have cameras in the two rooms. We do
Got
have
it. Got it.
we have a conference room that we offer to our clients, where we allow our clients to call meetings, and they can, they're free to bring in the people that they want to meet. And sometimes we have people that are like coin collectors, and they'll bring in their special coins, and they'll have little conferences there. And it's a, we try to be very accommodating. And we also have like a concierge service where people fly in from a different part of the world, and they don't know what they should be doing with attorneys or with accountants, and we give them the names of people, and we try to help them. We try to be as much of a family connection as anything that they would have if they did have relatives in Panama.
Got it. Yeah, we'll get into some of those ancillary services soon. I like that. Couple more questions about sort of like government jurisdiction type stuff. Um, what are some of the advantages of using a Panama-based vault over other countries' vaults, such as Cayman, Bahamas, Switzerland, Vanuatu, etc.?
Well, I used to think Switzerland was the most incredible place to have your wealth, until I realized what Switzerland has become. And if you want to have your wealth in a country that first of all, they don't want you if you're an American. They won't even give you a bank account now in Switzerland. But Switzerland has become very, very intrusive, and they do not care about your individual privacy anymore. So I guess people don't have a problem with that, but I do. Places like some of the islands, I looked at some of those places, and I find, there, some of them are not bad alternatives, but one, something like I believe you mentioned Vanuatu. That is
Mhm.
extreme. Well, it's
It's pretty
very
remote.
remote, and I'm not sure how, how stable it is, but I like the idea, but it's very far. I mean, for me, getting on a plane in 2.5 hours from Miami is, it's a lot easier than going to New York City.
Right. Right. Or theoretically, you could drive down from New York City.
Yeah, if it's not that hard. But and like I said, in terms of stability, and do your homework on that. But in terms of stability, Panama, I think, is a very, very stable uh, and very, very positive country for. And I don't, a lot of the government stuff, especially after the pandemic, it really bothered me. But so did California. And I'll say one thing: it's freer in Panama than it is in California.
This is true. What are the most popular jurisdictions? I'm not even certain I named them correctly. Like other than Panama,
I
where
think you mentioned
are
the
people
Cayman
often?
Islands is very popular.
Uh-huh.
Malta is very popular.
Mm,
And it all depends on your choice. And I will say the legal hurdles in some of those places just to start a company are incredibly difficult. In Panama, it's not so hard. It's very easy. It's very easy to start and create a company. The it's almost as easy as it is in the United States. As a matter of fact, I'd say it's almost equal. If you want to start your own company and create, the only drawback to starting a company in Panama is it's hard to get a bank account, and it's even harder if you're an American. I'm
yeah, I
going to tell you that.
remember. Yeah, I remember surprised that like just to open a bank account, the lawyers wanted to charge like a $800 fee or something just to open it.
In Panama, you mean? Well,
Yeah.
I think that's probably excessive. You need to kind of shop around a little bit about that, and you really don't need to have the lawyer. The lawyer basically could call and have people that they know in the bank start you off, but it shouldn't be that much of a process. I will tell you, in other countries, it's probably a lot more. In places like the islands you mentioned, you're going to
Yeah, that's
spend
true.
$5,000 to create a bank account and a company. Something like the Cayman
Hmm.
Islands, they're making a fortune out of charging people that kind of money, and I don't see the benefit to it.
Hmm. Yeah, related. It makes me think of a question that particularly happens with islands, but I guess for everyone, which is how you even get the valuables into and out of the jurisdiction. Because don't you often have to report if you have like more than $10,000 worth of valuables and stuff? I know that that's not your responsibility,
Well,
and people can store whatever they want. But
we do
what's
help you.
you must know a little
We
bit
help
about
you
that.
because I actually have on my staff a contract with an expert in customs. So we do everything legally. And I have had this woman now giving me advice. She is a professor, and she used to work for the Panama Customs. And when I have a question, my customers, my clients have issues, we present it to her, and we take care of it before it gets involved in the actual physical movement. So one of the things that most people aren't aware of is there are treaties between Panama and other countries. And those treaties have allowed major benefits. And the only one of those major benefits is, for example, if you have American gold, if you have gold in the United States that you bought in the United States and originated in the United States, and you want to send it to Panama, it's tax free. You do not have to pay a tax on it. Now, normally you do have
Good
to
to
pay a
know.
tax anytime you bring in gold from a non-treaty country. But if it comes from, let's see, I will, if it specifically from the United States, from Switzerland, and from Singapore, off the top of my head, that's three. They're specifically treaty countries with Panama that have exempted the tax charge on such gold and silver. But
Hmm.
you have to do it correctly, and you have to have the paperwork to show that it came through, and it becomes a major savings. And your only expense is the cost of having to ship it, which can be expensive.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes me think like where could the Panama Canal or the Cologne Free Zone come into play here? Is there an advantage to having those sort of assets
Not
available?
really, because if I could easily turn Atlas into a free zone if I wanted to, but it doesn't give you anything other than keeping it there. The minute you take something out of a free zone, you get taxed. So,
Mm,
once you can have it come in, but if it came in through a non-tax treaty country, then you don't have to worry about the free zone issue. It's in there, it's your property, and you have no more headaches. That's the first problem. Uh, Really, the expense that you need to worry about is, as long as you're coming in from a different country, is the cost of shipping and transfer insurance.
and are things being shipped by plane typically, or through the canal in like a
No, no,
container
no. That's
ship?
It's all by plane, unless it's a huge
Okay,
amount. But even then, I think it should be by plane. Uh, yeah, if
gotcha.
you're going to spend millions on gold, you don't want to put that on a ship.
Okay, good to know. Interesting. So the Cologne Free Trade Zone has, and we had an episode actually, one of our early episodes. You guys can look it up. One of my buddies has like a scooter company, and they make electric scooters. And he ships the parts in from China to the Cologne Free Trade Zone, and then they like assemble it there, and then it goes on to California. It's kind of a complicated space, or like the regulations around the Cologne Free Trade Zone, but that often sounds like that's not really a piece of the
Not
puzzle
really,
here.
because I can see what he's doing in that case, because you're assembling it in Panama, so you probably have other tax benefits to consider. In the case of gold and silver, if you take gold and silver and you put it into a free zone, as soon as you take it out of that free zone, the government is going to ask you to pay a tax. It's as if you brought it in from the airport. It's the same thing. But if that gold and silver came from those treaty exempted countries, you never have that problem. You just bring it in and then you put it into your box, into the vault.
Got it. So the U.S. has a
Yes,
treaty.
the U.S. has a treaty, and Switzerland has a treaty, and I believe Dubai.
Ooh. What about Canada? What about European
You
Union?
know what? I can tell you, well, the European Union, I don't believe as a union, as the union itself. Uh, I'm not sure about Germany, but I do know that Switzerland is the country that specifically we have the exemption, and Switzerland does manufacture gold and silver, as you know, so it's very convenient and very useful for our clients.
Got it. And so I guess what that means is that people should buy their gold. If they're not going to buy it in Panama, they should buy it in a country that has a treaty with
Yeah, if you
Panama.
come to our office and you say I want to buy some gold, we would immediately buy it from those countries, and we would have it sent either by Brinks or any or other sources, and have it delivered to the vault, and we would take delivery, and then we would have you place it in your private vault and take complete control of it.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, because I guess you could probably buy it locally in Panama, but there's probably some things that you're gonna need to source
It's
from abroad. Like maybe it's like rare coins or
Yeah,
rare,
it's very
yeah.
for it buying gold and silver in Panama is a very difficult thing today. It's very
Really?
legal,
Tell
but
tell us about
the
that.
banking system doesn't allow businesses to sell and trade in gold and silver. They'll close you down. I don't know why, but that's what they do. Now, how we deal with that is we have Atlas broker in Peru, and Peru deals with all of our purchases. That's our company, and we have the banking account there, and that does all the purchasing, and then we ship the gold wherever you want. Either if you live in Miami, send it to Miami or send it to the vault in Panama. It all depends. on what you want to do. But I believe that in Panama itself, not because of the legal system, but because of the banking system, they don't like buying and selling on normal business trades in the gold and silver market.
Interesting. I wasn't aware of
It's
that.
a practical problem that exists, and I'll tell you the reason. The reason is greed on the part of the bank. If you give me $100,000 to buy gold, and I send that $100,000 to a business account to buy the gold from the producer, I charge you a fee for that, but the majority of that goes to buy the gold. Banks don't like that. They don't that At least the Panamanian banks don't like that because that money doesn't stay in their account. It goes straight to the gold producer, which then goes to you as a client.
Right. It sort of leaves the banking system coming back to how we started the
Exactly.
episode.
They don't like it. So, I've gone through hell trying to find banks that aren't just ridiculous. And one of the things we have, and that's why our gold and silver buying and selling happens in Peru. And we're out of Miraflores, Peru, and the vault is in Panama. And now I would rather be able to do all of it right there in Panama, but Panama, the banking system just doesn't acknowledge on a normal basis. Now maybe if the banking president is your best friend, they might allow you to do it, but normally it won't happen.
Okay, good to know. What percentage of the clients do you think are bringing in their own gold versus buying gold off you guys?
Well, we've had a lot of people that have come from other places in Panama that have decided to move their stuff. And so that in that case, we have had some from other competitors that have moved in. And I'd say that percentage was about 40-50%. And the others have been bringing it in or buying it directly. It's hard to tell how much because, especially after the pandemic, a lot of things stopped. So,
Okay, interesting. So I guess just to clarify, like what percentage of clients do you think um, are getting some of those ancillary services?
you mean that is about 60%. 60% of the people that come to us end up asking us for recommendations as to a lawyer, an accountant, and I try to tell you if you're going to be doing any kind of, even if you're not doing a normal business, if you're just opening up something like an account, it's always good to have your own accountant and your own lawyer to give you some advice because you're in a different place and you need to have someone who's trustworthy and will give you advice that won't get you in any hot water and that make sure everything is done right.
Okay. What are the options that people have for buying gold? Is it a wire? Can they buy through crypto? Can they buy with cash?
Okay, most of the time they can buy in small amounts. They can buy in cash. Uh, Majority of the people, and we prefer that it will be by wire, and the wire is then transferred to the accounts that we have in Peru, and that account then purchases the gold directly from our manufacturers, and then that gold is then shipped to the client in Panama, and we take possession for the client, and once that's there, the client can come in and open up the box, and everything is started. While it's waiting for the client, we have our own private banking box that we keep, and we keep clients' stuff there in our own box for the client specifically until that client is able to get there and open up the box or have somebody with a power of attorney to open up their own box. In addition to that, sometimes they will buy. One of the things we do offer is clients will want to sell or buy within our own community of clients, and we act as
Mhm.
a mediator for the clients, and 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 just introduce them and let them people know that client A wants to sell some coins. Somebody in our own within our own client base will want to buy the coins, and that's between the two clients.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Obviously, we're not advocating like money laundering or anything. I understand why you have to have safeguards in place, but people ask about this stuff, so I have
Oh yeah, it's
to
part of life.
be the middleman and ask the questions on the podcast. So people could buy with a little bit of cash. Can they buy with crypto? Can they buy with Tether, USDC, Bitcoin, whatever?
To buy the only way we have set up right now for that is to do it through Kinesis, because Kinesis
Hmm.
has an exchange where they can exchange for dollars, and you can buy with Bitcoin and a couple of other cryptos, and they themselves would then handle that exchange. But we right now do not have that, but we would have to put you in touch with that service.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about Kinesis then, and then also I'm not sure if this is related, but I saw that you guys were partners with the ABX,
That
the
is Kinesis.
Allocated Bullion
That's Kinesis.
Exchange. Okay.
ABX is it's called allocated bullion, and they actually are the parent company, I believe. I'm not sure if they're the parent, but they are definitely associated with Kinesis together, and they are the I would say they are the branch that actually handles the metals, and we are agents for them, and they and Kinesis is the digital aspect of it. So once you can actually have purchases done, and they can then handle the conversion of that metal and make it into a crypto, which is called a KAU, and that a Kinesis Gold, and that in exchange that could be used on a credit card. It could be used to transfer as a payment for any kind of debt that you have. So that's that to me. That's one of those services that appealed to me because it handled an aspect of the liquidity of gold and silver that I didn't have with the vault by itself, and it gave the security that I was looking for because they have an extremely well developed system, and they are secure. And that's one thing, that's one reason you don't see a lot of that. A 1-to-1 exchange of gold, one ounce
Hmm.
of gold to one, well, not 1 ounce, it's 1 gram of gold to one KAU. And that in itself, that is something that's very secure, and it's not subject to it's not easy to hack. They spend a fortune on making their security very tight, and it's something that gives me a little bit of breathing room because I just there's no way I feel comfortable doing that on a smaller scale. So that's why we have them as
Yeah.
partners for that.
Right. 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 Are you like a equity holder, board of directors,
No,
anything like that, or just a pure
no,
like
we are
economic?
actually one of their vaults. We don't we're not owned by them, and we are not we don't own any of their stock, but we are together as we one of the vaults that they have in their system. They have 13 vaults, and which you can take one of if you're part of the Kinesis system, you can come into Atlas and you can deposit into your account with Kinesis at Atlas, or you can take out of Kinesis at Atlas, or you can go to one of their other 12 vaults around the world and do that. Now they're not completely set up with us yet, and but as a matter of fact, I just did a trial run of converting one of my 100 ounce or 100 gram pieces of gold, and I converted it into a Kinesis money for Atlas just to test it out, and we got it started. So we're at the beginning of a very new process.
Right, right, right. And partially for that reason, I don't want to dedicate too much of this episode to Kinesis because at the end of the day, it's a separate
Yes.
business, and
Yes.
the relationship could go away or change or
Sure.
whatever. But holy crap, like this is like the on and off ramp that people are looking
I
for.
use it myself. I mean, I'm very excited by it because I have looked for that. Look, to me, the ideal system is to be able to take, let's say, your wealth or your savings and have it in your hands, but then be able to turn it and convert it and spend it when you need to spend it. So if I have $20,000 in gold and I want to buy something with it, I shouldn't have to go crazy trying to convert it. And this is a perfect system because it allows me to control my banking, my independence, and then I get back into the system because that allows you to get into the system. But this keeps me free to decide I don't need the bank anymore. At some point I won't need the bank. And no, and neither will you. Of course the banks aren't going to like that. But at some point we can have an economic system that is parallel to their economic system and allows us to do what
Mhm.
we want and then convert it back and go back into their system. And that's what this is all about.
Got it. And they're based in, it looks like the team's pretty Australian, but maybe they're based in
They're in
Dubai.
Singapore, they're in Hong Kong, they have an office in New York City, they have a main office in London. So they're all over the place,
Okay.
which is why I was interested in it because to do something like that you need to be big. You need to have the strength of and unity of mass income investment, and you have to have strength, and that's why I like it.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Because a lot of people were asking me about on and off ramps. One of the questions, and shout out Jake Nomada, friend of the podcast. You guys can check out the Jake Nomada episode as
Okay.
well. He was also asking about, is it possible to sell gold back to you guys? And if so, how is that paid out? And I guess the answer is Kinesis.
It could be done through Kinesis, or we have clients that are put the word out that they want to buy gold or silver, and we contact the clients independently and say, we have a client who wants to sell. That, like I said, we put the two people together. It's a community. What I've tried to
Mhm.
develop here is a community of like-minded people.
Makes sense. And how do you do that? Like, how do you guys put out those like tender offers?
No.
Basically,
Once
is it
once
is
you
it an
have
email
once
or?
you have you're a customer. Once you're a client of ours, we have you on our base, and if customer client number one has an offer, we put it out, and then let's say client number two contacts our office, say, hey, I'd like to buy it. We put you two together.
Okay, definitely makes sense. Huh.
Now, if you want to convert that later, yeah, you have Kinesis to convert it and do something else. Or one of the things I also like about Kinesis is if you take your like what I did, I took 100 grams of gold, Pamp Swiss, and I minted it. I created 100 grams of KAU. Now, one of the benefit I get of that is not only do I have that in an on and off ramp, but I now get a yield for having minted more Kinesis metal.
Oh, so people can have their gold with you guys, stored with you guys, and then they just basically sort of tell Kinesis, "Hey, I have this gold with Atlas," and then I guess you mint it, and then it's in the
Yes.
system, and then they can start earning interest
It's
off
it's
of
not
their
interest
gold.
technically. What they pay you, and they have a lot of very good videos on how it's done, but they pay you from their fees worldwide, transactional fees. They pay you a percent of that. So what they
Okay.
do is that, let's say you get a minter's yield when you create Kinesis. And by the way, one of the things I like about that, normally when you use Kinesis, you get a yield for just having Kinesis. It's a small amount, little transactional fees. But if you create, like my example, I created 100 Kinesis coins. That I will always get a minter's yield off of that, even if I spend it. I always get the yield because I put 100 more coins into the system that are based on 1-to-1. These aren't like Bitcoins. They're not like everything else. This is a 1-to-1. Whatever exists is based on an actual physical amount of gold. And I'm not talking percentage either, because I wouldn't get into that, and I don't recommend anybody that does any kind of percentage,
Fractional ownership, yeah.
run away. Run away from it.
All
This
right.
is 1-to-1. There is no game with it. It's basically a symbol of an actual physical amount that exists either in our vault or in one of the other 12 vaults that they have.
And at the beginning of the episode, I think you mentioned there were audits every 3
No,
months.
actually, they just came up with a new declaration that they're going to have quarterly audits.
Quarterly audits.
They used to have audits
Okay.
2 times a year, and because of all the stuff that's been going on in the news, I think they've decided to show people that it's even more secure than it's ever been, and they want
Probably a good
quarterly
call.
audits.
Probably a good call.
Hey, you know what? It's
Okay.
so easy in the financial business to have scoundrels that I'm in favor of complete disclosure, and people need to be able to walk in and see whatever is going on daily.
Got it. And so what does that audit process look like? Does that mean that some sort of third-party auditing
Yes.
group is coming into your guys' office
We
every
haven't
3 months?
we ourselves have not started that yet because they haven't brought in the amount of gold yet to start the process. But the way it works is they bring in an independent auditor that let's say that for example they've listed $500,000 worth of gold is being stored at Atlas. This is an example.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the amount that it was, as of this day, it was stored in for Kinesis. The independent auditor will walk in and show the credentials, and we will then open up the Kinesis box that they have, their vault, and they will then count and measure the specific amounts of gold. They will list it, and then they will put their stamp and have it witnessed, and that's part of that is their actual audit. You can see their audits, by the way, on their website. They have copies of the audit you can download.
Got it. And does that mean that like a lot of the assets or gold in your guys' vaults are actually changing hands all the time?
No, most of the time. Like I said, we haven't even started that yet. I mean, this is something that's
Right.
just
But
new.
wouldn't that be the case once it sort of gets
No, because
financialized?
if it's going to change hands, then it will have to become that particular client will have to open up a Kinesis account through us, and that account they will then have to put their gold into the Kinesis account, which then can exchange hands. So in that case, yes, that in their own account, in the Kinesis account, there's a lot of movement going on. Not yet with us, but that's how it's happening.
Okay. And then so you'd have to kind of change the register on the box
No,
to represent the new ownership
no,
person or
because
something?
let's say you have a box with us, and then you want to take one of your ounces of gold and convert it to a Kinesis. You take
Mhm.
one of your ounces and you convert it, and by putting it into the Kinesis account, you then you now have Kinesis digital. You no longer are you're not using it. That now you intend for that to be exchanged and transacted however you want, and that's between you and the Kinesis system, which we are part of. But you're not. It's not part of your normal bank account or your box account. You've put it into a different system. That's the Kinesis
Okay.
system.
You know what would be interesting? I'm just thinking out loud here is if you wanted to move gold around the world from Panama to Singapore, for example, instead of actually moving the gold physically, you could just sort of sell gold in Panama through Kinesis and then buy gold in
That
Singapore, something
you,
like that. Almost do like a
that
gold
is
trade.
exactly their system. We just don't have that operational yet because they have to have a certain amount of gold in our box in order for other people to come and do that. But that is their system. You can go to one of their vaults around the world and either take out or put in, where depending on what you have, what what uh, what corresponds to you. So yeah,
Mhm.
you can buy $1,000 worth of Kinesis money, and you can go to any Kinesis vault and say, I want $1,000 worth of gold physically, and they give it to you. They have a minimum amount to do that. I want to be accurate. I'm just using an
Mhm.
example, but within their minimum amount, whatever that is, you have to you have to qualify.
Yeah, we had some people on Twitter ask about is there a minimum investment to work with you guys? And I wasn't even going to get around to the question because I figured all you got to do is pay 600
For
bucks or whatever to
for the
open the
vault, yes,
box.
that's
But
it. I mean, that's it. You just
yeah,
buy the box,
yeah.
and then you put in whatever you want. If you want to buy gold, there's no if you want to buy a small amount, we can sell you a small amount. If you want to buy larger amounts, then we have to order it, and that's ordered through our Peruvian broker company, and
Mhm.
that takes a few days, but that's how it's done.
Got it. And then how does the gold actually make its way into your box, right? Because do they need access to your box or how does it get in and
You
out
mean
of the box?
when, let's say you bought it, you want to buy new
Yeah.
gold, you just opened up a box, you make a purchase order, and we have it delivered to us through either
Hmm.
Brinks or another one of the uh, dealers that are transporters.
Yep.
And sometimes, believe it or not, in the case of silver and gold, uh, we've bought some from U.S. producers, and they've actually special mailed it with insurance, of course. And
Hmm.
we've taken possession of that. Once we take possession
Hmm.
of it for the client, we contact the client, and the client has to come and physically take possession and put it in to their chosen box.
Oh, really? The client can't just be like, "Hey, Alex and team, can you I give you permission to put this gold in my box?"
No, you can give us permission to hold it in our box until you're ready. And I have done that for some clients, but we can't access your box.
Yeah, makes sense. I guess that's the value of maybe having a Panama-based power of
Yeah.
attorney
I
who
mean,
could
we don't,
pop by and
and even if you wanted to, I don't want that power. We can't access your box. We can access our own box and hold it for you until you're ready to come and take care of it. But you can't just say, Alex, take my gold and put it in my box. We don't have the key to it. In order for us to get in, we have to have two keys, our key and your key. And we will not take possession of that. We don't want that responsibility. And we would never recommend that anybody allow that to happen.
definitely makes sense. Yeah, this Kinesis thing's very interesting. I feel like I'm not a crypto guy, so I can't ask the most nuanced questions about it, but hopefully I've done somewhat of a decent job in the past.
I'm not a big fan of all crypto. I do like the blockchain, and that's why I'm doing this, because the blockchain is the most secure way of exchanging value. And the fact that gold and silver is backed 100% 1 to 1 on this exchange is what's interesting to me. I don't care about everything else. I don't care about trading. I don't care about all that. I just want to know if I've got a coin, a crypto coin that says $1 or one piece of gold, it's worth one piece of gold. and it's physical and
Hmm.
it's physically there. That's what I care about, and that's what we offer. We're not trying to get into anything else that's creative. We don't do any of that.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe I'll have to get these guys on the podcast and expand further on it. I'm going to ask you a couple random questions, change it up a little
Okay,
bit. What about fine art? Can people store fine art with you
absolutely.
guys? Do you have like how does that work? Do you have boxes that size? What about the climate
Well, it's
controlling?
it's very cold in our. It's the climate is about 65, maybe a little colder. So yeah, it's you can store art. We have a couple of special areas that we have there, and we can adapt to larger areas if people have some very special art that they want to store. We can modify.
Okay, yeah, because a painting's like kind of a specific physical profile, right?
It's not that you don't see that too much in Panama, but yeah, we do have the ability to do it.
Yeah, I guess if it hits the outdoor airs for even a second, painting will melt.
No, no, but I mean, it does have a. There's a lot of humidity in Panama, but
Yeah.
we're a very climate controlled place.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just kind of messing around. Um, what is, I guess you don't know, but like, what is some of the weirdest stuff you've heard about people holding in the vault?
Really, we don't have we don't have a lot because I try and keep we edit our people. We make sure that we don't let people come in that are going to do strange things. Uh, Most people they either keep their precious metals or they a lot of people keep their legal documents and their valuable
Hmm.
papers. You know, that's how they save it. They want to make sure it's safe. They want to make sure nobody's gonna nobody's going to rob you there. They may rob you when you're on the street, but they're not going to rob you there.
No, it makes sense. You must have like one or two good stories about, I don't know, people wanting to store weird stuff or
No,
something like
not
that.
really. not, not really. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry when it comes to that.
All right, fair enough. What's your like go-to spot in Panama for living? Is it Panama City? Do you have a affinity for Boquete or other areas like that, or down in
It
Coronado
depends on the
maybe?
lifestyle. I mean, I like to be around the bay in Panama in the city. Um,
Hmm.
when I like to go to a restaurant, I like to be able to go out and eat where I want to go. And Panama City has a lot of great choices. Places like Boquete are very slow. If you like that calm life and you want to escape, that's your place. There's also Boca del Toro, which is kind of a strange mixture. It feels like you're in the Caribbean islands instead of Panama. A little bit of Jamaica.
Hmm.
You know, it has a different flavor, and there are a lot of American expats there. Beautiful water. If you like fishing, God, I can't think of a better place. But for a city life, the electricity of a great city, the city of Panama, and places like Balboa, Avenida Balboa, which is the where all the Hilton Hotel and all those some beautiful places there, and you got the old
Hmm.
Trump Hotel and Casino there, and there's a lot to do in Panama.
Yeah, yeah, I love Panama. Um, I want to try to weave in a question about boating and yachting and stuff because I know you got the Atlas Vault's office is actually quite close to at least one of the marinas in Panama. I'm not sure how to weave a question
Well, if
together,
you want to,
but
we've
um,
actually had customers that come in from different parts of the world, and we will, we have people that are boat captains, and will handle taking you out for a fishing trip. We'll put you in touch with them. We've had it happen, so it does happen a lot because people come in and from California or from Texas, and hey, can you get me a good boat captain that'll show me the good fishing areas, and we're more than happy to put you together.
mhm. One question I had was obviously up until about a year ago, 2 years ago, it was very easy to get residency in Panama under the Friendly Nations visa. They've since made it much harder, where the typical on ramp now is you might have to make an investment of $200,000 or something. Maybe you could get in under the pensionado visa without the investment. Because I think there might be some clients that might feel uncomfortable storing wealth in Panama if their only way to get at it is through a tourist visa, because then you're kind of putting a lot of risk on being able to enter the country and the border official or whatever. How would you respond to that sort of question, like in terms of maybe getting them a residency permit, or maybe they actually don't need it? You understand what
You
I'm getting
don't need
at?
a permit to do any of the stuff that, like, to get a box or have an account. You don't need a residency. I didn't have a residency for years. I mean, I just recently got a residency because I really didn't care to do it. Now I'm glad I
Mm-hmm.
did it, and I did it because of the fact that when the Panama restrictions, when there were restrictions on travel because of the pandemic, everything became harder. But I still traveled. I just had to go through a little bit, a little more of a hassle. Now, I mean, anytime you invest any kind of in any business, or if you have an account, a bank account of any within the minimum amount, you're going to qualify. Yes, it's what they've done is they made sure that a lot of the poor countries and poor people don't get their immediate visas. But if you're coming in as a traveler and you're coming in to get a visa with you don't it doesn't I mean 200,000, if you buy an apartment or you open up a business, you're going to be able to get that visa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you meet the qualifications, like
Yeah,
you
it's
can
not
get
that
it.
hard to
Yeah.
get. As a matter of fact, it's a lot cheaper than most other countries. Most of
Mm-hmm.
the countries in Europe require a great deal of money, and I think there's one island I can't remember at the top of my head that's a lot cheaper. But most, like the Cayman Islands, that's gotten pretty expensive.
It's true. Yeah, I think to get into Bahamas or Cayman, it might be like a
Oh yeah,
million bucks or yeah.
and the funny thing is that I'm not sure why. What's the big deal? Because it's not like you get any special protections or anything like that. You're basically out in the open with in those countries, so you're not getting anything extra.
Alex, I feel like if I came down to Panama and we busted out the cigars and the scotch, you'd have tons of good stories. I know we're short on time, but yeah, I mean, I almost want to get like one or two stories out of you. What were the two bank failures that you mentioned that you witnessed firsthand?
Well, I was in Greece. It wasn't a bank failure, but I can tell you that I had business. I had business, and I still have business in Greece. And they closed. They restricted all people's bank accounts, and they took what is called a haircut. So that means that whatever money I went to bed with in my account, I woke up with 40% less. That was a haircut.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
that
I
was
remember
that was
that.
having a business on Cyprus and having a business in Greece, and that was an experiment that went on and by the banking industry, and I think it was a successful one because there weren't any revolutions in the street. People just took it. And with regard to Panama, I personally had an account in a bank that was closed down by the U.S. government. And that bank, once it was closed, everything that was in it pretty much went bankrupt. So whatever person had, if you had a savings account, you lost it all. If you had investments in the bank, you lost even more than that. And if you had safety deposit boxes in that bank, you lost what you had, because if you have a safety deposit box in a bank, you belong to the bank. The bank owns it.
Hmm.
And most people don't have that understanding. That's why it's important to have everything out of the system, out of the banking system. And you are your only control in a private safety deposit box and vault. You are the one. And in a bank, The bank has so many different things that it's involved in. It's got it's got all of these different investments that it does. That is something that you need to stay away from when you're trying to protect your wealth. And yeah, and in this bank, it's called Balboa Bank, went down the drain, and everybody that had money in it pretty much got screwed.
Yeah, crazy. Do you want to just tell us one more time what are the benefits of storing wealth outside of the banking system, and why is there an increasing need for privacy in the world today?
Privacy is the biggest benefit. The second biggest benefit is, and I think it's probably as important, is that you are the only one who controls your wealth, your savings. No one else can come in, no one else can grab it, no one else can touch it. It's yours. You come in and you go out on your own at that vault, and that belongs to you. Why is that important? Because if you care about your privacy, we're getting to the point now where in the United States, if you spend more than $600, they want to know about it. At some point, there's something called ESG. ESG is where they will determine whether or not you're one of the good guys. If you're spending money on things that they don't like, or you're eating too much beef, or they have determined at certain points, it keeps changing, that you're in a group of people that are not doing the things that the superiors have determined you should do. With digital currency, which is coming, digital currency, they'll be able to control everything you spend your money on. They'll be able to control who you support financially. They'll be able to control if you give truckers who protest the government your money. Do you want that? I think it's a problem. And if you keep going down that road of allowing government to decide everything you have and everything you spend, which is coming, you're going to lose a great freedom. And that's what this is about. It's so important to have control over your money and how you spend it and where you put it. That is what this is about. And if you you go down the path of the government's creating digital currency and creating rules and regulations as to what you can spend it on, you are going to become a slave to the system. I don't think that we can always avoid it, but we can minimize what happens with it. And that's the reason why you should have something saved up in a totally private environment. Not to create, not to violate law, not to break any law, but to do what you have a right to do, which is save your earned money in your own private way. That's what it's all about.
Well said, Alex. This has definitely been a very thought-provoking episode and hopefully a very educational episode for people as well, because it's not very often we can get the CEO of a vault and gold storage company to give a full-length interview. So we really appreciate your time, and I'm sure everyone learned a lot. So, Alex, this is the time in the episode where you can tell people where they can find you and get whatever message across that you would like to share with the
Well,
audience.
you can find us on at atlasvaults.com, and you can visit us, and we highly recommend, and we invite all of you, if you're in Panama, come and visit us, inspect, do everything you want, and we're there. We'll answer questions, and we like to keep things open, and we like verifiable behavior and activity. So come and visit us, and I invite you too. Come in if you're down around the area, stop by and see me.
I will be planning on coming to Panama just in a couple months, so we'll definitely talk.
Fantastic. Thank you for the invitation.
Awesome. Well, this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today was Alex Kapitanakis, the CEO of Atlas Vaults. Thanks everyone for listening.